this Mark's Reviews and Tutorials video. Today we're looking at not how to pull a bread machine apart or what's inside it. You can have a look up here for a link to that video. Today we're going to make some bread. I've got a recipe for bread that you can just put into a bread maker, and it is super simple, super easy. It is a matter of get all the ingredients, chuck them into the bread machine, and then bring it out, hit the button, and come back to a gorgeous loaf of bread. I'm going to tell you a couple of secrets, but this is absolutely simple. When you've got a bread machine like this, and if you haven't, they really are worth grabbing. They're not expensive. You really can be in control of what you put in. Now, the flour you use is the first one I'm going to talk about. Baker's flour is really important. The quality of your loaf is going to come down to, of course, the type of flour that you put in. Now, you can vary this recipe that I've got in all sorts of ways. I would recommend you start with it as I've got it and then vary it from there in the ways to refine it so it suits what you want. So not just normal flour, normal cake flour, it needs to be Baker's flour. Baker's flour has a bit more gluten in it, but don't fear the gluten. The gluten is a lot of times because they're using poor quality flour and other things like that. If you get yourself a good quality flour, a lot of people will find they have no problems with it at all. So give this a go. We're just going to rip through really quick, show you how to get it running, how to get it going, so you can have a loaf of bread that you know exactly what's gone into it because you've added everything in yourself. I'm not for these pre-made, pre-mixed things that who knows what chemicals they've put in. I'm talking about some really good bread with oats in it, with seeds in it, that tastes absolutely fantastic and is really good. Here are the base ingredients. Now, please don't be overwhelmed by what you see here. It might be, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff. But really, the base, the main what's going to be going in is Baker's flour. I've talked about that. This is rolled oats, can be steel cut oats, can be any sort of oats you like. That's just something that really helps the bread. This is a little bit of sugar you can put in there, hopefully not too much. And we're going to need a 1 cup measuring cup. We're going to need some instant yeast. It can come in little packets or it can come in a big container like this where we spoon it out. This is my secret ingredient. I'll get back to that. We're going to need some seeds. This really can be what you've got around. This is sunflower kernels and pumpkin seeds, but we're going to put some seeds in there to mix through the bread as well. Really makes it interesting. We're going to need some olive oil. Again, it can be any sort of oil. I recommend olive oil. And we're going to need a little bit of salt. So getting back to the quantities and so forth, it really is a straightforward recipe. When you're making it straight up, you literally can just bang everything into here, and including the water, there can be some warm water go in as well, and then hit the button and turn it on. It'll mix it all, and seriously at the end, you'll just come back with a nice high loaf of bread. It really is that simple. Bread machines also have a timer function on them. If you're going to use the timer, then the order really matters. All of a sudden, you've got to get water on the bottom, and then you put your flour and all the rest of it. It tends to sit up on the top. And then you just make a little well and you put your yeast. This is the one that has to be up high and dry and not get wet or oil or anything on it. Sit it up the top, and then it can sit there for 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever. The whole idea of the timer is it'll then cook and be ready, bang, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever it is when you get up. You'll have nice, fresh bread ready to go. I actually cook mine in the garage because the machine's a bit of an old rowdy thing, makes a bit of noise. You don't want it being noisy and taking up space. So do all the preparation here in the kitchen, take it out to a nice clean spot in the garage and hit the button, and then she just does all the work for you. So I'm going to create a PDF. Not too sure how to put that up on YouTube, but we'll have a look just with the amounts and quantities and all the rest of it. But we are just going to get stuck straight into it. Here we go. I'll get into the secret ingredient right at the start. You can get a product called Bread Helper. I checked in with my mother-in-law on this because she was very successfully baking bread and I wasn't. Mine were all flat and hopeless. And she said, yeah, you can get this Bread Helper. But I found out that it is mainly ascorbic acid, which is just vitamin C tablets. So when I make my bread, I always put about 1,000 meg, so 2 of these or 1,000 meg vitamin C in of ascorbic acid. You can get that in a powder form as well. But who doesn't want a bit of bonus vitamin C in their bread so it's there when you eat it? But not only that, it really helps with the rising and the bread coming out really nice and working well. So that's my secret ingredient, a little bit of vitamin C. No one's going to complain about having that in the bread. It is 4 cups of Baker's flour, and then you have 1 cup of other things, basically. Now it's going to be somewhere between 2/3 and 3/4 of rolled oats in the cup, and then you just top it off with your seeds. Whatever you've got, whatever you like, whatever you want, the seeds go in over the top, and then that's your 5th cup, 1,000 meg of vitamin C. We need to put in 3 teaspoons of yeast. If your yeast is a bit old, you've had it for a long time, I tend to increase the dose. If this is getting near the end and it hasn't been used very regularly, then I increase the dose. You can get it up to 3.5, 4 teaspoons so that it'll still work if it starts to run a bit low. 2 tablespoons of sugar, that can be to taste. I try to use brown sugar in it so it's not the refined sugar. And what's left? We've got salt and olive oil. It's 2 tablespoons of olive oil and it's 2 teaspoons of salt. As I said, I'll write this out, so I'll either put a still shot at the end of the video so that you can capture it in some way, or print it out, or I'll put a PDF, put a link. What I can do is put a link through to a PDF so you can get it. But that's my bread, really healthy, tastes really good. Kids even love it. It's nice and interesting. You do have to cut it thin because it'll come out really big, but have a go. It's way, way better than the pre-packaged stuff, way less expensive than the pre-packaged stuff. So we'll get it going, we'll get all those quantities into the pot, and then we'll show you where we're at. Fill it up to about there, and then just top it off with your seeds. Get the 5th cup, and then stick it in the mix. We've got the flour in there already, and so now it's time for the vitamin C to go in. These 500s, if you just chuck them in, you'll end up with a little orange blob in your bread, which is not what you want. So what you need to do, just break them in half and rub them on each other, and they just grind up, if you can see that, and drop in. Then just break them into bits for the rest of it, and then they'll just mix up as they go. As long as there's nothing bigger than those bits there, it'll all disappear. Or you can just stick them in a teaspoon, grind it, whatever your method is. You do just need to break them up a bit, and then they'll end up well distributed. All the dry ingredients are in, and the olive oil is poured over the back there. Literally is chuck it all in, order doesn't matter, because this is all going to be mixed in a couple of seconds anyway. Now I'm going to put in 2 cups of warm water. Now make sure you see this video through to the end, because when it all combines and comes together, how it looks, that ball when it first spins up after the first 10 minutes of mixing, super duper important. So don't switch the video off at this point. You've got to get the information about how the ball's got to look, because you may have to add a bit more flour or a bit more water. Now it needs to be warm water because that will activate the yeast and work better. I don't recommend though getting hot water out of your hot water service out of the tap, because that can put a yuck taste into your bread. So you might hear in the background the kettle starting up. Just turn the kettle on, let it start to heat, and then turn the kettle off and use that. So just water that's been heated a little bit in your kettle, just so it can be warm. You don't want it scalding hot. If the kettle overheats and it's scalding hot, actually mix in your mixing cup, fill up with your hot water, and then top it up with a bit of cold water, and then tip it in, because it's very important the temperature that goes in on you there. We've literally tipped the 2 cups of water in, and that's what it looks like. So now we're going to take it outside and stick it into the bread machine. That sits there into place, and once she's in, we then just turn it on. Now, you will have basic and fast sort of settings. What I want you to do for this loaf of bread is stick it on something which is longer, like French. A French setting, most bread machines will have that, and that's a longer setting. Now, if you're in a super duper hurry and you want to rip it up on a fast, you go for your life, but the longer you knead and leave it to rest, and knead and leave it to rest, let it go through and do its thing, the better product you'll end up with. So here, we just need to select through to French, and then start, and that will start off straight away. Now I'm just going to let that mix for a little bit, and then I want to show you the dough ball, because it's super duper important how that initial dough ball looks, because if you get that right, you get the consistency right, it's absolutely everything for how the bread will turn out. So we'll come back in a second when this is mixed through and let you see how the dough ball is
starting to mix now. That's all of 1 minute after it's been running.
Look at this, you see the dry flour in the corners and just that bit of a flaky appearance? I've just tipped a little bit of water in, and I tipped it in where it was. Now don't make the mistake of adding too much water at this point. Add a little bit, because you want the whole ball to come together. Not to be dry and flaky, but more like this. It'll be glistening and all over. It's still only a few minutes in. This is all starting, but I have added just a little bit. And I'm talking a dribble of little bits of water adjustments, because I'll show you where I want this to end up. And put a little bit of water and wait. Don't be suckered into putting in too much, but let it keep on mixing, because this is looking close. I think this is, yeah, see, it's really starting to come up to the ball shape that we're after. So I'm going to put the lid in and let it run for a little bit longer, and see how it ends. Now we're looking, I've added no more water, just put that little bit of dribble in and I've waited another 2 minutes and that's now looking good. The ideal is like a real glistening ball coming right over, but that is where that's going to end up. That's a really good consistency. Now you don't want it so it's flaky and powder in the corners and too dry. You don't want it so it's wet. If it's slopping around, you've got it too wet and you're going to need to add some flour. Don't worry about all the other ingredients, just put a bit more flour in if you need to add a little bit off. But that's looking good. I'll come back so that you can see it. That will now, if you give it a few more minutes, come off, really looking the part. All right, so now, this is the easy bit. 3.5 hours. It's just going to take, because it's on the long setting, it's on the French. Just going to let it do its thing. Just set it out here, close the lid down, and forget about it. Here we go. Another 3 minutes, and that is what I want the dough ball to look like. It's got a bit of a glisten to it, and that's just exactly what you're after. It's come up to shape. It's got that bit of a shine. You know at this point, you get that dough ball right, you will end up with a beautiful loaf of bread. It's that simple. The machine goes through all the motions from here, but if you get it to that point, you will end up with a great loaf of bread. All right, good luck with this. Give it a go. There's lots of substitutions you can try. You can substitute honey for sugar, lots and lots of different things. You can substitute brown flour for white flour. You can substitute the oats with grits and different seeds. But I would recommend give it a go pretty close to what I've said to start with, and then vary it from there. And if you do something like putting honey in instead of sugar, realizing you're adding liquid, so just back your water off a little bit, because that'll change it up a little bit. Okay, enjoy your beautiful bread that is super duper healthy. To go, don't make a habit of this. I'm gonna give you a little peek in underneath. See, that's all raised up over the tin. I don't want the heat to come out. I don't want that to drop. But that's looking beautiful, and that's going to bake up to lovely. So here is the list of ingredients that we said at the start. I'll hold it back so that you can screenshot it. Get it right back here. Then you can screenshot it and print it out. But there we go. And it's time. The timer is down to 0. So that's the end result. I'll give you one last look once I've got it inside and sliced it. But that, listen to that. Nice, crusty, beautiful, healthy loaf of bread. And yeah, as I said, I'll take him inside and give it a slice and show you. But that's what you'll end up with. Very popular, great loaf of bread. Here we go. There's the end loaf. Looking beautiful. And I've cut a couple of slices off here. You can see there's a really good, well-formed loaf there. And you can see the seeds that are in here. Absolutely beautiful, healthy bread. And much, much bigger than anything you can get in the store. But there it is. Definitely give it a go.